All right, so had an interesting idea. One, let's just go how my head's going. Okay, so two ideas today. First one came to me while I was at the gym, and I saw two gym staff members kind of going, having like a back and forth. Like they were Eastern European, I'm guessing, because they were white, but they didn't have an English accent. So that to me is Eastern European. Yes, racist. Anyway, yeah, they were like, "Do you want a coffee?" I don't do Eastern European accents. "Do you want a coffee?" I'll have a coffee. Okay. And just from that, I was thinking, why hasn't there been a comedy, sitcom, situational comedy at a gym? Then I thought, there has been in the past with this series called the British Empire. This was before the whole gym craze, as far as I know, in terms of people going to the gym. I mean, people always went to the gym. It's just now it seems more in popular culture and keeping fit and wellness. And I thought, okay, so there's the British Empire. Who are we gonna have? And I thought, okay, we're gonna have two guys initially, and it's gonna play off similar to Bottom on BBC with Rick Mail and Eddie Edmondson. And how this is gonna work in terms of filming, it's gonna be when the gym is closed, and then this is gonna be the graveyard shift. Most gyms are 24-hour, but this is an exclusive gym where it caters to the rich, which are flying in from the east side of the world, namely the East Asian countries, Japan, South Korea, China, Thailand, etc. And they're wealthy and they're coming in for a business trip or some shopping or whatever, and they want to just kind of keep to their time. And by the time it's midnight over here, they would be waking up in their country because it's an 8-hour difference, right? So I figured this would be good to get in day players or featured guests to come in, which are of Asian descent actors, yeah? And then have the main protagonist be a student doing a master's. And why he's taking this part-time job on is because his lectures are in the afternoon. So he'll do the graveyard shift. He'll choose to sleep after the graveyard shift or power through, and then wake up and then go to the lectures in the afternoon. And the person doing the graveyard shift is on China time because he is Chinese or of Asian descent. Let's just say he's Chinese for now because that makes sense in my head. And then, yeah, so he's on that time anyway, and he's used to being on that time. But the only difference is that the location is in London. And his naivety and him not understanding the culture contrasts with the person who's been living there. That's the impression you get. Is not superior, but they're on equal in terms of their job title. But on the first day, he goes there and doesn't know the ropes, so he asks this person again. I don't really know what race to make him, but to contrast it could be another British-sized East Asian, or it could be a white person, or it could be a black person. That's the flexibility of this role. So he teaches the protagonist the ropes in terms of what to do during the graveyard shift, which is, let's say, gym closes at 11, so he has to arrive there at 10:30, and then the gym reopens at 7. So that's, what is that? 10:30, 11, 7.5 hours, right? Math. All right. Let's count this. 10:30, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 hours. Okay, with an hour lunch break. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So he'd be doing the graveyard shift, so taking over from whoever. And the whole introduction is the guy from China, the protagonist that we follow through his eyes, that's the audience's eyes. We sympathize with him to a point, but we also empathize with him because he's very naive about how things work. Because you've got this whole time you need to kill from the hours of 10:30, 11 until 7 in the morning. And his first day, he's very keen. So he re-racks all the weights. He does stuff for all the things. He does that in no time straight, like under an hour. And the antagonist is like, well, what are you doing? We need to space out the work. So the mentality is get work done, then you can have free time. Whereas the guy who's more experienced is like, get the work done over the period of time that you're paid for, because that mentality is the Western mentality compared to the Eastern mentality, so to speak. And then there's a little inside hint to the audience that actually the guy that's had more work experience with the graveyard shifts actually lives there in the gym. So as a pilot, because it's only 2 people, and later on I've got all these other ideas like high-end guests or clients, gym goers, which the guy that's been working there for the longest doesn't understand because they're foreigners, they're from China. But our protagonist, he understands them because he is from that region and he can speak their language, whatever it may be. So that crosses that hurdle for that person. And like a little plot point where one time our antagonist, so to speak, gets really hyper on free energy drinks because he has the keys to to the store, or there was an extra delivery of a case of 24 cans that he can't get rid of, and the club's gonna drink them anyway, so he might as well drink them. And he's on his like 12th can, and he's like really hyper, so we can play off the hyperness. And then he could be also doing these crazy workout things that you see on Instagram that people do, like press-ups on dumbbells, or crazy deadlifts on Bosu balls and that kind of shit. Just like really weird shit that we can put in there as jokes that he saw on social media or Instagram. Anyway, so that idea is being developed. Like, I've put the initial thoughts down on paper. And another thing which came to mind while I was reading wherever the book is, it's in my bag. Another thing that came to mind was the Chicago Bulls 95-96 season is historic because they won 72 games. What hasn't been covered is their losses, the 10 losses. So I think actually that would make an interesting documentary / YouTube video series, because you've got 10 guaranteed videos as to why they lost, how they're doing per quarter. Did Michael play? Was anyone injured? What was their record leading up to that game? The 10 games before and then 10 games after. How they bounced back the next game. Because I don't think they went 2 games unbeaten in that whole season. 2 games in a row unbeaten. But I'll have to check. So it's all fact checking, as well as whether I can get any footage of those 10 games on the internet or even pictures. And what will be interesting is, I guess, play-by-play, talking about what happened and the margin of how much they lost by. Because the 72 wins is just the wins, but I think what would be interesting is how you actually learn from those losses, because that was a record-breaking season, and they knew that if they didn't win the championship, that it would have all been for nothing. So, as an extension from that 10-part video series, we can go into the playoffs and the finals. I know they met the Sonics in the finals. Let's have a look. Wikipedia. Alright. Okay. So obviously they were first in the Central Division, and they were first in the Eastern Conference. This is all stuff that you know. And then second were the Orlando Magic, which they swept in the Eastern Conference Finals, I believe. Anyway, so let's have a look. Alright, so first round was against the Heat, which they swept. Alright. And then the next round, semi-finals, was against the Heat, which they won 4-1. So that's one loss. So I think up until that point, this was like the best record in terms of approaching to the finals and winning it. Alright, so first round and the final round of the Eastern Conference, they swept both series against the Heat and the Magic. So those are the wins. The loss is against the Knicks, and then I guess that would be interesting as to see why they lost that particular game. It was an away game, so yeah, you're not expected to win away. And then they were on the verge of sweeping the Heat in their house, but then they lost 2 games in a row. And then I remember that Scoop Jackson, I think it was, said that they lost 2 games in order to win it back home in Chicago, which sounds ridiculous, right? And I think as well, in history, in absolute history, no one has ever come back from 3-0, ever, in the NBA. To win it 4-3, that is. But they have in other sports. I think baseball, that's happened in baseball. Again, I have to fact check. But, 13 videos. This is basically 13 videos, right? Because they lost 10 in the regular season, undefeated in January. Interesting. All right, so star bookmark. And then just be interesting to see if they had any injuries in this season. They were 39-2 at home, and on the road they were 33-8. Anyway, I think that's gonna make for an interesting video series, because I haven't seen anything like that on the Nets. Because people don't really want to talk about losses, but I feel that's why I'm doing this. I feel that actually you learn more from your losses than you do from your wins, because when you win, it's kind of not unsatisfactory, but it's more, that's what you're supposed to do. But when you lose, you figure, well, that's weird. That should have not happened that way, kind of thing. Yeah. So in this, So with the regular season, 2 losses in November. I might, if it gets boring, I might just break it down in terms of month. So 2 losses in November, 1 loss in December, none in January, and then we had the All-Star break in San Antonio, I believe. 3 in February, 2 in March, and 2 in April. So February was their worst month, quote unquote. Yeah. But that was on the road that they lost those 3 games. And the only time they lost at home was twice in April. Alright, so that's something I didn't know. But yeah, to put that into a video series, I don't think my head is very interesting. So it's going to be voiceover with interesting stats, screen capped, and there should be a script to it, right? There should be some kind of format. So I guess we'll talk about record going into the game, expectations for the game, and most of these were on the road, so we'll talk about the environment if I can find any documentation. Talk about the game itself. Yeah, should be fun, right? I think it should be fun. All right. That's me done. So, cookie time. Peace out.